Hello there, this is Jocelyn Corvus, and as most of you may know, Jeff, Patrick, and I have just been extremely excited to bring you this interview, and just the whole entire project for Funeral Feast has been so exciting for me, so we're just truly hoping that you guys enjoy listening as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Also, I may have come off a little awkward, because admittedly, I was a bit starstruck, and being that this was my first interview on audio, I was a little bit nervous, and Jeff Patrick just carried me through the whole thing. So thanks, Jeff, so much for carrying me because I could not have done it without you. He just absolutely put my mind at ease through the whole thing. So without further delay, I present to you the official Jocelyn Corvus Jeff Patrick interview. Enjoy! It seems like you have a real passion for horror, and I was just wondering why you chose to write in that genre. What about beliefs that you may have had that kind of shaped some of the theories and ideas in your writing?
That's a good question. Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
No problem. If you have any beliefs or legends, maybe local legends that you grew up with, anything that kind of helped to shape your writing or the characters or the monsters in them?
Well, I suppose classic, like a lot of classic European lore, involving vampires and werewolves went into the creation of the way I portray monsters, but also very much classic horror films, mainly the ones from Universal Studios in the 30s and 40s, and the Hammer films from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. As far as personal beliefs, it's boy, I am really striking out here, aren't I?
Not at all, not at all. No, no, you're perfect. Um, what about, do you actually believe that there's anything supernatural out there, or do you just kind of think it's fun to think about?
I try to keep an open mind on everything. I do believe there are things out there that, science still cannot explain. I don't know if I officially believe in, say, ghosts, but yeah, I have seen a lot of, and read a lot of phenomena that, I couldn't just completely dismiss. So, as I said, yeah, I keep an open mind. I find it interesting, for example, that for virtually every nation on Earth has a variation of the vampire or werewolf myth in its folklore. So, for things that supposedly don't exist, I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated with that facet myself. You mentioned last time we spoke about that you'd like to move to New Orleans. What exactly is the allure to New Orleans for you?
I suppose it has a very European aesthetic. It's almost, it is very much like being in another, not just like another country necessarily, but, like another time. Safely, I mean, best way to put it probably is there is literally no other city in the world that is in the country anyway, that is like it. I mean, it is very much, it's its own, it's really in a class all its own,
What about other places that you might like to visit for inspiration? Is there anywhere that stands out in your mind?
Well, for certain, Salem, Massachusetts. And basically, like, the New England area in general, that actually, anyone who's listening is interested, and maybe the only time I say this, start, Michael's hometown, Caron, the fictitious city, is, I've never actually
interesting.
Yeah. You know, sort of leave it kind of vague, like how the sisters are with Springfield or Batman is with Gotham City, but you know, Gotham's on the Eastern Seaboard, I do know that. Anyway, other cities, yeah, I would at least at some point, you know, it's, you know, I've been to New York, I would love to go there again, and at least one of the, you know, California, you know, Hollywood, LA. Although, I don't know, you know, the more I hear from other people that have been there, it's kind of like more, the number one's getting it, I don't know, you know, not as, shall we say, atmospheric, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the United States, you know, that's just the United States. For, you know, Mexico, it sounds to me like they've got some interesting lore, and I mean, I jumped ahead of myself there. Other countries, yeah, Mexico.
Yeah, the Mexican devil folklore. There's actually a tale that is similar that happened in Liverpool where the Beatles used to play, but it's pretty interesting to me. I love a lot of the lore from Mexico. But what about movies that might have? Well, I think you've kind of gone over the movies, but are there any particular movies that really helped to shape your writing?
Well, there, you know, yeah, as mentioned, that there's the universal classics of the 30s and 40s, you know, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Wolfman, The Mummy, and the Hammer series, particularly their Dracula and vampire films. And very much, a whole lot of it would also be the 80s, you know, horror films. I mean, they're kind of mainly their reworkings of the classics, i.e., like The Howling and American Werewolf in London for werewolves, Fright Night for vampires, and actually my zombies owe more to Lucio Fulci than George Romero, in as much as they're the classic supernatural kind, you know, reanimated through voodoo or black magic, what have you.
What about what exactly fueled your desire to take writing from a dream to a reality?
I mean, aside from the fact when I realized I wasn't really worth a damn at anything else.
Well, was there anything that maybe kind of just, you know, maybe
Yeah,
like you woke up and
yeah,
said,
you know, eventually I just, you know, for years, you know, it was a good few years, I was always just kicking around all these ideas, and, you know, I mean, you know, thinking, this might make a good story, or that might make a good story, and this and then I said, well, why don't I just, you know, sit down and, you know, just try my hand at it, and according to most people that actually read it, I guess I do okay at it.
you know, this is the first story that I have kept up with from the start. I've never read a series. Actually, there's some series here and there, but I pick them up usually later. And, you know, Harry Potter and that kind of thing, it's just not my cup of tea, really.
Nor mine.
Yeah. But there's some books that, like, I'll pick them up later. This is the first one that I can really say that I'm excited about seeing the next one and where it's going to go. And so, I mean, that kind of holds a little sentimental value to me with the writing and just the storyline itself, the monsters, the action. It was just a lot different from most things I've read. So, also, what other stories can we look forward to from the Michael Patrick series?
Well, the next couple books probably are going to be collections of other short stories I've done. I easily have enough to fill 2, maybe 3 volumes of those. Probably what my longest piece to date, and I can, it's Blood and Black Roses, where he takes on a coven of gothic vampire women. It's a bit more character driven. I mean, there's still action aplenty, but you know, it does for the most part. The children shouldn't play with dead things.
That's definitely a good moral. Do you have any, or do you do any research when it comes to the geographical locations, or with the occult practices or anything like that used in your books? Do you specifically go out to seek these things to make it appear to be, I can't think of the word at the moment, but genuine, so that people really feel that they're there?
I try to, yeah. I mean, if travel is a possibility, I will do that. If it's not, I will research heavily, I mean, thanks to the internet, I have an extraordinary tool at my disposal for that purpose. For example, I have plans for one that's sort of like a tribute to the works of Edgar Allan Poe, and it's set in Maryland, which I have not yet visited, and but I've done research on it. I mean, maybe by the time I write it, I will have had a chance to visit out that way. But so yeah, I do. I mean, I check mark and I make notes of specific locations and whatnot. So yeah, to create a very shall we say authentic reading. I mean, just so yeah, it seems like I at least did some research on it. Oh, as far as like beliefs and superstitions, well, I mean, especially now with a lot of writers kind of taking their own liberties, particularly with vampires and werewolves.
We won't name
I
names,
mean,
though. We won't name names on that one.
no, certainly not. Well, he is not the only one, I will say. But I mean, but in truth, in some fairness, I mean, there is, I mean, a lot of what we think is traditional vampire lore, we actually owe more to Bram Stoker than European lore. I mean, for example, European vampires never shape-shifted, and they did look like something that had just crawled out of a grave. They were not, suave and aristocratic and attractive. Of course, for that matter, Dracula was not attractive in the novel. He was not portrayed as that way. He first appears as a creepy old man, and then when he comes to London and feeds on the populace, he becomes younger and his hair darkens, but he never becomes attractive. But yeah, I mean, I do try to like blend, folklore with, the pop cultural aspects, if you will. And probably my main one of my main ones is like for werewolves is that they can shapeshift anytime they want to. The ones that are actually born with it, the curse, if you will, or carry it for a year or more. They can change whenever they want. It's only newly affected ones that are, transformed without consent under a full moon. But overall, I do research. I do an awful lot of. It's a very big part of it for me. Yeah, so that I do, know something of what I'm writing.
I do have to ask, because last time you mentioned the carnival one, and
Yes.
maybe you could just go into that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Maybe you could just go into that one a little bit. I think that one has a pretty mass appeal.
Certainly. It, too, is going to be more character-driven. It doesn't involve a lot of, a number of characters. I mean, most of the short stories, yes. I mean, there's emphasis on Michael and maybe to a lesser extent the damsel in distress of the particular piece. But in this one, yes, it involves this, carnival in which these strange goings on are basically, whenever it travels through a town, several citizens disappear. natural ability, based on their particular talents. Just to cite a few examples, the snake charmer, she can command her cobras and see through their eyes and transform into a giant cobra herself. The barker has this like mass hypnosis or mass suggestion power, which is what entices people to come to this carnival that ordinarily no one in their right mind would probably visit. The knife thrower is he does his miss, but the target always seems to come out of it all right. And my personal favorite, the clown.
Yeah, I think that one's everyone's personal favorite. I actually have a bit of a phobia with those.
Yeah, they have this disturbing grin on their faces all the time, and they can be killed like anything else, but they feel no pain, no matter how much damage is inflicted upon them.
That sounds really scary.
Yeah, Michael does actually mention the famous quote by Lon Chaney, "There's nothing funny about a clown in the moonlight."
Well, I really can't wait for the second one, and just keep me posted for when it comes out, because I really want to read that one, and I'll definitely be on top of all of them. So just keep me posted, and thank you so much for talking to me tonight.
Certainly.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable, and just hearing where the story's going, it's just really exciting to me. So thank you so much again, and I will talk to you later.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate your support.
All right, thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.